On This Week in Enterprise Tech, we talked age checks for dating apps on social media and spoke with Tyler Forst, Chief Revenue Officer at Social Mobile. TWiT on the set.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This Week in Enterprise Tech, episode 522, recorded December 9th, 2022, Bespoke Mobility.
This episode of This Week in Enterprise Tech is brought to you by Code Comments, an original podcast from Red Hat that lets you listen in on two experienced technologists as they describe their building process and what they've learned from their experiences. Search for Code Comments in your podcast player. And by IT Pro from ACI Learning. IT Pro TV is now IT Pro from ACI Learning. If you're looking to break into the world of IT, or if your IT team needs to level up, get the introduction you need with IT Pro. Check out an IT Pro business plan by visiting itpro.tv/enterprise today. And by Melissa. Over 10,000 clients worldwide in industries like retail, education, healthcare, insurance, finance, and government rely on Melissa for full spectrum data quality and ID verification software. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit.
Welcome to This Week in Enterprise Tech, your source for everything that matters in the technology that drives the enterprise. I'm Kurt Franklin, your host for this episode of This Week in Enterprise Tech. We look forward to the return of Lou very soon. He's on special assignment checking out some very dangerous things. Well, fortunately for you, I'm not here by myself this week. I do have my co-host, Brian Chee. Brian, welcome to the show. And what's shaking down on your end of the neighborhood?
Well, I've just, had a great week. You'll notice I have a new plushie sitting on my microphone. That's Remy from Ratatouille. Bunch of my old ex-students and I and their children went and did Disney this week. We had lots of fun, and they cannot say enough nice things about the designers, the Imagineers at Disney. They have done an amazing job, and we really, really enjoyed the Star Wars themed area. But I'm also playing around with a bunch of RGB LEDs, getting ready for a show called Holiday Matsui. Anyway, it's basically an anime holiday themed conference, and I'm going to be helping to decorate a 16-foot Christmas tree with dancing lights and audio controlled computerized lights. Ought to be fun.
I think it should be fun, and I agree. One of the great things about living in the city beautiful is that we're surrounded by people who are very creative and very good at making experiences for people from all over the world. And I know a bit about that Holiday Matsuri. My dear wife has made a 12-foot diameter tree skirt to go around that tree. So it promises to be a lot of fun. Well, this episode is going to be a lot of fun. We have a super guest coming on in just a bit. Looking forward to talking to him. But before we do, let's talk about some blips. The increased focus on software supply chains doesn't just come from DevOps professionals. Threat actors are paying attention too. According to a recent article on dark reading, a type of malware known as a dead drop resolver is being planted on GitHub by a subgroup of the state-backed Iranian threat actor Cobalt Mirage. U.S.-based companies seem to be the target, and both the technique and malware are pretty devious. According to MITRE, dead drop resolvers are content on legitimate web services with embedded malicious domains or IP addresses. They look legitimate, but they're not. The point is to hide the code's evil intent and obfuscate its ownership. Does a pretty good job at both of those. In this case, the malware known as Drokbk uses the dead drop resolver technique to find its command and control, or C2, server by connecting to GitHub. Drokbk is written in .NET, and it's a two-parter, has a dropper and a payload. Now, fortunately, using GitHub as a dead drop resolver is a technique that cyber defenders can look for on their networks. They can see which URLs are being requested and look for unusual or unexpected connections to GitHub APIs from their systems. As with pretty much every piece of malware, robust patching and updating schemes are the best defense, since Cobalt Mirage is known to use vulnerabilities in a variety of enterprise software components as ports of entry to the network. Now, pay attention to this one. In a joint advisory issued on November 17, cybersecurity agencies in the U.S., United Kingdom, and Australia warned that attacks from groups linked to Iran are on the rise. Those attacks are coming through email, malicious web links, and, yes, malware snuck into projects on code repositories like GitHub.
Sorry. This story that comes from CNET sounds like it might be kind of fluffy, something you might just pass by because it doesn't sound like it you're interested in. Dating apps on Facebook. I'm married. Kurt's married. Why would we need a dating app? Well, there's some interesting ramifications. And what's happening is the folks at Meta are testing age verification tools on Facebook dating as it tries to make the platform more age appropriate. And this was mentioned in a Monday blog post. Anyway, Facebook dating users are required to prove, how old they are to use the app. And oftentimes, we know how often this is, with fake IDs. Teens will change the date of birth to evade the barrier. Heck, I changed my date of birth because I don't want to share my exact personally identifiable information. Anyway, Meta, formerly known as Facebook, launched the Facebook dating back in 2019 with minimal success. And a lot of people didn't even hear about it. The dating feature has trailed dating app competitors like Tinder and Hinge in popularity. While Meta will be testing two approaches to verify a user's age. One approach is through video selfies, which it has partnered with digital identity company Yoti to screen. It shares a still image from the video selfie with Yoti, which estimates your age according to your facial features. Yoti cannot recognize your identity, stresses the folks from Meta. Anyway, oops, sorry. Alternately, you can upload some form of ID that includes your age, Meta said in a post. It'll be encrypted and stored securely and won't be visible on your Facebook profile or to other people on the app. The company began testing age verification on Instagram back in June. Meta prevented 96% of people from under 18 from changing their age, according to them in this post, and 81% of people presented with its ID verification opted to use Yoti's video selfie to verify their age. Quote, providing people with more than one option to verify their age allows them to select the method that best fits their needs and preferences, according to Erica Finkel, the company's director of data governance, said in one of their posts. For example, many people don't always have access to forms of ID that make verifying age clear. Well, strongly suggest you read the CNET article, but it isn't just dating that needs trustworthy age verification, but things like online purchases, performance ticket sales, like concerts and so forth. Vehicle rentals is a big one. And the list goes on and on. We simply need to take steps towards being able to trust online identities, and this is a first step. And I will also add that colleges and universities are very, very big users of age validation. There are quite a few things, there's a lot of things like, alcohol consumption's the low-hanging fruit. But a lot of universities, because you have to drive vehicles, need absolute positive proof that you're old enough so it won't blow up their insurance rates. Anyway, it's going to be interesting to see how this works and whether people come up with more ways of validating age. Yoti just happens to be one that's using video, and you got to wonder how soon it's going to be before other industries start deciding they need to go and validate age before they display X.
Well, settle in, folks, because this next one comes from a book of stories we've been reading for a long, long time. According to a report issued this week by cloud platform provider Mark43, 76% of first responders have concerns that their IT systems are vulnerable to ransomware attacks and data breaches. And according to the article published on Dark Reading, most state and local agencies don't have the technical expertise to protect such technology against threats. Now, the Mark 43 report goes even farther, stating that the vast majority of first responders use outdated technology and disconnected systems, with 68% of public safety officers required to file paperwork from the office rather than in the field, and 67% of first responders are encountering issues with inefficient technology. Now, all of this makes for an atmosphere that seems perfect for malicious actors, and those actors are responding to the favorable climate. In 2019 and 2020, ransomware groups began seriously targeting state, local, tribal, and territorial government agencies. In 2019, 22 town agencies and local government organizations were targeted with a coordinated ransomware attack disrupting services for citizens, while ransomware attacks on local school systems impacted education for more than 750,000 students during 2019, a number that climbed past 1 million students in 2020. Now, last year, the FBI warned that ransomware spread by the Conti cybercriminal group had targeted at least 16 healthcare and first responder networks. September of this year saw a ransomware attack disrupt 911 service for Suffolk County, New York. By the way, if you're not familiar with New York, Suffolk County, that's the county on Long Island just to the east of New York City. In most states, it would be the largest county or city in the state. Now, according to Mark 43, the best solution would be for agencies to prioritize technology, data management, and cybersecurity roles. Instead, cybersecurity is often tasked to either untrained IT workers inside the department or to officers getting ready to retire. It's a bad situation that could lead to horrible results. And believe me, threat actors are doing tabletop gaming to see just how these deficiencies and vulnerabilities could be used as part of a larger attack on the population and critical infrastructure across North America.
So big thank you to Ars Technica for this story. We've talked about the Department of Defense wanting to have secure cloud capability. We've been going on and on about this, I think, for at least the last couple of years. Anyway, this Ars Technica article talks about a decision being made. You know, we're not sure it's good or bad. Time will tell. But anyway, it was at a press conference, and the Department of Defense officials discussed the benefits of partnering with Google, Oracle, Microsoft, and Amazon to build the Pentagon's new cloud computing network. Notice it was all for the big boys. The multi-cloud strategy was described as a necessary move to keep military personnel current as technology has progressed and officials' familiarity with cloud technology has matured. Well, Air Force Lieutenant General Robert Skinner said that this joint warfighting cloud capability, JWCC, also pronounced JWIC, contract worth approximately $9 billion, would help quickly expand cloud capabilities across all defense departments. He described new accelerator capabilities like pre-configured templates and infrastructure as code that will make it so that even people who don't understand cloud can leverage cloud technologies. Such capabilities could help troops on the ground easily access data gathered by unmanned aircraft or space communication satellites. GWIC is a multi-award contract vehicle that will provide the DoD the opportunity to acquire commercial cloud capabilities and services directly from the commercial cloud service providers at the speed of mission at all classification levels, from headquarters to the tactical edge, according to a DoD press release. Until now, officials did not have direct access to cloud providers, and military personnel located around the world didn't have cloud technology capable of providing access to files at all three classification levels, which are unclassified, secret, and top secret. With GWIC, that's changed, and now the Department of Defense expects to be able to pass on intelligence more quickly. Well, hey, let's talk about this just a little bit. The gist is that the DoD didn't really pick. Well, they did, but they took all four of the big players, as basically leaving the design and implementation teams to decide which of the solutions is appropriate to the system. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot more details on this contract as details become public. I will say that having the four big players as options means system designers finally have a bit more choice on platform features. Now, if and only if, we're hoping and crossing our fingers that each of the four big platforms actually can live up to the security specs of the contract. Because keep in mind, even though they said unclassified, secret, top secret, there are finer grain classifications involved. And also another thing that isn't said in the article is that classification isn't just, yes, I have that level, I can have anything in the top secret world. I also have to have a need to know. So the current cloud authentication systems don't have a way of managing that. And that's going to be something that's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how they handle.
Well, that's going to do it for the blips. We've got bytes to come and then a fabulous guest. But before we do, we've got an advertisement. This time, we're going to be hearing from the big twit himself, Mr. Leo Laporte, telling us about a fabulous sponsor of This Week in Enterprise Tech.
Hey, Brian. Hey, everybody. Leo Laporte here. I'm going to interrupt TWiT for a bit to talk about our sponsor. We'll be right back with more in just a little bit, but I'm doing Lou's duties today to talk about Red Hat. You know Red Hat. And maybe you knew they do podcasts. They really do great podcasts, kind of by developers for developers. Actually, this would be for anybody who's interested in how the software lifecycle, how it gets from an idea to market. They call it code comments. Now, you guys know what a code comment is. You know, it's when a coder is writing some code and to remind him or her of what she did in the program. She puts a little piece of text explaining it so that when she reads that 6 months from now, she doesn't go, huh? And when anybody else reads it, they understand better. I think it's a great name for a podcast that is all about code, letting two experienced technologists in on the building process. It takes a lot of work, as you know, to bring a project from whiteboard to development to market. It's never rarely, nothing important anyway, is done by one person. It's a team effort. Burr Sutter's your host. You'll love him. He's a Red Hatter, lifelong developer advocate, community organizer. Really, he's dialed into this community and how it works. So in every episode, he's going to pull in an experienced technologist, not just from Red Hat, but across the industry, to trade stories, talk about what they've learned from building successful and sometimes unsuccessful projects. They're just starting to put them out there, but there's at least 3, I think, right now. I love the deep learning episode of Code Comments. You'll be very interested to understand kind of how deep learning works and how how it becomes productized. I think it's fascinating. Episodes are available anywhere you listen to podcasts. If you like this show, I think you'll love Red Hat Code Comments. Just go to the website, redhat.com/code comments podcast, or look in our show notes for today's episode of This Week in Enterprise Tech, and we'll put a link there. And of course, probably the easiest thing to do is search for Code Comments in your podcast player and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button, as the kids say. Code Comments, brand new from Red Hat. Thank you, Red Hat, for supporting This Week in Enterprise Tech. Now back to the show.
Thanks, Leo. We'll hear more from Leo later on, but before we do, let's talk about a bite. And this week we've got one that's pretty darn serious. Turns out that if you haven't heard about it yet, in North Carolina earlier this week, there was some sabotage. Specifically, someone went after a power substation with a rifle. Now, they ended up shutting down power to more than 35,000 customers. And according to the authorities, this was not just some random Yahoo spraying a substation with bullets. They knew what they were shooting at, and they hit it. This was targeted both in terms of the substation, because it turned out to be the sole substation powering a substantial portion of the grid, and where in the substation their bullets landed. I've heard a lot of commentary about this week coming from the general media, broadcast and publication. What we don't know right now is bigger than what we do. There have not been any arrests made. No credible group has claimed responsibility. There are several bits of speculation, including that there was, in fact, a drag show scheduled for the town served by the substation for that night, and it was disrupted by the power outage. Some people, a few of them, coincidentally or not, associated with the January 6th riots, have said specifically that that was being targeted, but they're not seen, as I said, as credible spokespeople for any group. So what do we know? We know that this, in fact, points out that in spite all of our wringing of hands and worrying about how vulnerable the grid and other critical infrastructure is to cyber attacks, somebody with a rifle can do just as much damage to a targeted area. It's like one of the things that communications people are used to talking about is what's called backhoe fade. That's where your signal is degraded by someone running a backhoe bucket through a cable that's buried. Same sort of thing. I remember, in fact, when I lived in Atlanta, someone ran a ditch witch through an AT&T long lines bundle that carried over 100,000 fiber pairs. Needless to say, it was several days before all of those links were restored. I think they just moved some people into the trailer doing fusion splicing. Our grid, much of our critical infrastructure is in fact vulnerable. And I know that Brian's got a lot to talk about here because he's been involved with the grid, with various things for a while. But here's the thing. You're going to hear a lot of people wringing their hands going, well, how can we make sure that our critical infrastructure is absolutely safe? And we can't. Not and have a society that any of us want to live in. there is a certain amount of vulnerability that is built into a free and open society. So the real question is, how do we reduce the threat and increase the resilience while staying within the guidelines that we'll accept as a society? Brian, what do you think? I mean, are we ready to go down the route of absolute security and safety for all our critical infrastructure?
Yeah, and I also believe in Santa Claus too. The issue here, and this is one that I actually had to do a lot of work with. When you start designing data centers, and this is how I'm going to tie it back into being an enterprise topic. When you start designing a data center, when your data center is big enough, you start talking about a power substation just for you. Especially if you start talking about, say, like the NSA facility in, an unsaid location that, you start measuring it in acres. The large case, when I design such things, is when I have to go and make sure someone doesn't mess around with a set of big transformers, which, oh, by the way, is a huge vulnerability, because for the most part, really big transformers are not off the shelf. They are custom built. So when someone destroys a very large transformer, it could be weeks or months before a replacement can be brought in. And a lot of these transformers are big enough that transporting them starts becoming a real issue with big, giant, wide load trucks. Anyway, for the enterprise, there are things that you need to keep in mind, so that when you start talking about physical security of, say, an ISO rated data center, that's more than just putting sticky mats inside your data center entrances. It's also things like working with the architects and plant designers to make sure that the, say, hollow tile or concrete brick wall around your power station is big enough, tall enough. One of the tricks we used to do is try and, depending on if there's any kind of really tall buildings, we'll go and make the wall high enough that someone doesn't have an easy, clear shot in. And that's what they probably took out. I'm speculating, and I'm going to preface it that way, that there's a good chance that they went for some very key devices, which kind of leads me to think that they were power technicians of some sort. But there's more than just, taking out a drag queen show, or in this case, it also took out quite a few hospitals, which had to start burning diesel like crazy in order to stay up running. Now, there's a few other things that are coming up. This can, and I believe already has been, labeled domestic terrorism. And when you start talking about terrorism, that removes a lot of interesting Miranda rights. In fact, the FISA courts can do some, not, you would think it would be against a person's civil liberties, but when you're labeled a terrorist, your civil liberties profile changes radically. So whoever did this, there's going to be an awful lot of people looking for you. And I'm sorry to say, there's going to be a lot of law enforcement people that are going to make one heck of an example. Because we're already spending lots and lots and lots and lots of money on trying to fix and solidify the resilience of our power grid, not only electrical power, but also natural gas, fuel, and things like that. So the enterprise needs to also add this to a very, very long list of things to do. A simple padlock might no longer be good enough. You might want to seriously think about going further. And one of the other interesting things that I groomed out of the article is the power stations that were affected were not considered super key, but they were key enough that they caused a cascade for other power stations to trip out. And they were off in the boonies. And these power stations also didn't have cameras or very few cameras. So whoever did this really and truly did know the industry. And it's going to be interesting. So anyway, getting back to us all, there's going to be lots and lots of people speculating on what might happen out of this. It certainly affects a lot of enterprises. There's quite a few high-tech firms in the Raleigh area. That's Research Triangle Park and so forth. I'm not sure if RTP was on those power stations, but they could very well be. And there's also law enforcement talking about, well, if someone dies from this, they're going to bring murder charges. So I'm going to keep an eye on this. This is going to be really interesting. And I am certainly going to be having conversations with some of the people that I worked with on designing physical plant data centers, because it's going to change. It's a game changer.
It really is. And one of the things that was noted about this particular substation, and it's something that's true of substations in lots and lots of rural and suburban areas, they're surrounded by chain link fences. The fence is primarily there to keep people from wandering in and being electrocuted, not to provide security for the facility. I suspect that right now you've got a lot of smaller utilities, rural electric co-ops, and companies like, well, this was Duke Energy, who those of us in our part of Orlando know and love, looking at what it would cost to build brick, concrete, concrete block walls around all their substations. I'll tell you now, the answer is some sort of variation on a giant bucket load of money. But as with so much, when these were installed, when they were designed, security wasn't a big concern. It's just, for so many of these installations, they never imagined that a terrorist would go after them. And what we're finding, as we've seen in so many cases, the biggest failure in our security, whether it's cybersecurity or physical security, whether we're talking about the government or the enterprise, the greatest single failure is the failure of imagination. Because we don't think of doing something, we can't imagine anyone else thinking of doing it either. This is, by the way, one of the reasons why I harp on diversity on teams so much. Get a lot of people with a lot of different imaginations and a lot of different life experiences on a team, and you have far fewer of these massive failures of imagination. Well, we are coming up on everybody's favorite part of This Week in Enterprise Tech. That's our guest. But before we talk to a guest, we get to hear from Mr. Leo Laporte, once again talking about a fabulous sponsor of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Leo?
Hey, it's me again, interrupting just a bit to talk about one of my favorite sponsors, a company I'm intimately familiar with. I think probably a lot of you are as well, IT Pro. Now, formerly IT Pro TV, now IT Pro from ACI Learning. This is really good news because you get all the benefits and resource of the best online IT training in the world, IT Pro, combined with ACI Learning and all of their benefits and resources. And now you've got something. You've really got something. Let me talk for a minute to you as a leader in a company where you have an IT team. I think it's pretty clear as things shift so rapidly in IT these days that you can't just rest on your laurels. Is that what we're resting on? I think we're we're resting on our laurels. You've got to learn new skills. You've got to keep up. You've got to expand your abilities. And as a business leader, you want to do the same, I think, with your IT team. You know, you want to keep them up to date. They want to keep up to date. You want them to be up to date because it's good for business. IT Pro is the way to do it. First of all, they're going to see it not as a chore, but as a benefit, as something they want, something they use and they love, because IT Pros, all of IT Pros programming from day one has been designed to be engaging and fun. You don't just learn, you have a great experience learning. In fact, there's a stat that says 80% of people who start an IT Pro video finish it. That just shows you that people love these. They're chunked up 20 to 30 minutes, so your team can do it at their convenience. They will enjoy learning. You will get the benefits of them having better skills. IT Pro offers the training, the perspectives to understand the disruptions that are happening right now in IT. And this is something you want your team to have. Get all the training, all the search for your team done in one place. That's fantastic. IT Pro's got it all. Every vendor, every skill you need for IT team training. IT from Microsoft, Cisco, training of Linux, Apple, security, cloud, and I can go on and on. In fact, not just technical skills, but compliance and soft skills too. More than 6,800 hours now of IT content. When I say 6,800 hours, there's nothing dusty or old in here. This is all relevant, up-to-date content that's been created by IT Pro. The business plan's great too. You'll love the dashboard. You can track your team's results. Makes it easy to assign seats, unassign seats, even create subsets of teams and say, you three do this, you do that. You can monitor their progress. You can see their logins. You can see where they are right now, how many of the courses, individual episodes of the courses they've watched. And you can, by the way, assign individual episodes too. You can, in fact, it's easy because every IT Pro course, every episode has a full transcript, so which are searchable. So you can say, well, I want them to learn more about Kerberos authentication. Search for that. Find, it doesn't even have to be a whole episode. Find the 15 minutes they need to watch, and you can assign even that. It's a really nice dashboard. You'll get reporting on all the usage with beautiful visual reports over any period of time. You want progress over any period of time. Makes it easy to justify the spend. I think they've really got it down right. This is a great product from a company we know very, very well and love. IT Pro, now from ACI Learning. Give your team the IT development platform they need to level up their skills while enjoying the journey. Go to itpro.tv. The address hasn't changed. itpro.tv/enterprise today. And I want you to do this /enterprise because that means that tells them that you saw it here, and it really helps Lou and the team do a better job and get paid. Okay, I'll admit it. itpro.tv/enterprise. It's a benefit to you. It's a benefit to your team. And when you go there with that address, it's a benefit to us. See, it's a win-win-win all around. Thank you very much, IT Pro, from ACI Learning. And now back to TWiT.
Thanks, Lou. We appreciate it. And we'll hear from Leo one more time before the show is over. Old habits are hard to break. Leo will be back before you know it. Well, if you're like most of us, a non-trivial part of your computing day is spent on a mobile device. Those mobile devices are critical, and getting them to market is not simple. So today we're talking with Tyler Forst, Chief Revenue Officer and former president at Social Mobile, and he's going to be talking to us about just what it takes to make these fabulous mobile devices happen. Tyler, welcome to This Week in Enterprise Tech.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Tyler, we're going to start our conversation with you the way we tend to start all our conversations. We have listeners who are at every stage of a career. They see our guests and want to know what it takes to be sitting in, well, that chair in that marvelously well-lit conference room where you are. So can you tell us a bit about what it took to get from where you started to where you are now?
Yeah, sure. I guess I'll start with a little bit of a background to make it make sense on the company, how we got here, and then how I wound up in this seat. So Social Mobile is an enterprise mobility solutions provider. We've been in business since 2011, designing, developing custom mobile solutions, which are intended to solve specific business challenges that our clients face. We're one of a select handful of companies in the world with a license from Google to make GMS certified devices, which not only guarantees the integrity and security of the hardware and software, but it also allows us to integrate the complete set of Android Enterprise APIs into all of our solutions. To date, we've delivered about approximately 11 to 12 million devices worldwide. So everything we do is custom, and you might ask, what is a custom mobile solution? It's something you might think of a phone, a tablet, kiosk, or dedicated devices, but they're designed and developed with a specific intent of solving a specific challenge that a client of ours is facing. So a client comes to us, they explain the specific challenges and what problems they're facing, and we work with them to develop a custom technology solution that removes these challenges and allows them to streamline their business processes. So the solutions that we create, we brand them for the clients, and we provide the security patches and support that keeps those devices safe and in compliance with all the security policies required throughout the entire life cycle of the device. So that's a little bit about the company itself. How did I wind up here? So I joined Social Mobile approximately 4 years ago, which was at the time that the company made its pivot into the enterprise space. From its inception in 2011 till approximately 2018, Social Mobile was developing custom devices geared toward consumers. And as that market got crowded and mobile devices became more prevalent in the workspace, the company made a strategic decision to pivot into the enterprise space, which is when I joined the company. And as a rapidly growing organization, we were all wearing many hats. And before I knew it, that meant I was the president of the company. That had me overseeing everything from sales to marketing to procurement, general operations, a little bit of everything. And the company just continued to expand. And as such, we continued to actually expand the roster of the depth of our bench, let's call it. So we brought in some seasoned experts who were brought in to oversee specific aspects of the business that they specialize in. And as our roster grew and we had these experts brought in, that allowed, the incumbents to take off some of our hats. And for me particularly, that allowed me to naturally settle back into my preferred role of overseeing the sales and marketing, aka Chief Revenue Officer, and focusing on helping continue our rapid expansion. So hopefully that helps answer that question on a little bit about our background and then how I wound up in the specific role that I am in here at Social Mobile.
You helped me with both of those, and I appreciate that. Well, I want to go and jump right into what I think is going to be a critical question. You talk about bespoke hardware. So, there are, I don't know, a bazillion Android handsets on the market. Many of them incredibly capable devices. We keep hearing and seeing ads for, that they have cameras to rival the best Hollywood uses. They have more computing horsepower than the average NSC supercomputer. They can, reach out and plumb the depths of space with their radios. With all of this capability, with all of that going on, why would someone go for a custom device, which, let's admit it, is almost certainly going to be more expensive than what you could go down to your local Verizon and pick up? Why would they go with a bespoke device rather than using a standard handset that they could buy by the pallet load?
Yeah, good question. So I'm going to address the comment about typically less expensive. I'll save that for the end of this answer because I think it's actually the opposite of that. But The real answer on why Bespoke as opposed to a device that currently exists off the shelf is those devices with all of those great features that you mentioned and top of the line cameras and sensors and everything, that's not what's needed by an enterprise. That is what is wanted by let's say a kid in high school who wants to show off and have the latest Galaxy device or iPhone device and have the nicest pictures on Instagram and be able to apply all the filters that they need and basically be the cool kid in school. But that is not what an enterprise focuses on. An enterprise is focused on scalability, reliability, security, and that is something that a lot of these devices actually don't provide. So if you take the latest iPhone or consumer Android device, those devices typically have a life cycle and a refresh cycle of 12 months. So every 12 months, they're going to release the next version of that device, and that's great if you're a consumer or a kid who's looking to take the highest quality pictures. But if you're an enterprise who wants to be able to deploy, tens of thousands of devices and manage those devices in an efficient and scalable way, you want to make sure that you can deploy that same device for many years to come and not have to constantly focus on the refresh cycle of every 12 months. So you don't currently. A lot of organizations come to us and they come to us because they're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. They have a specific challenge and they're trying to take a device that exists today that was built for a wide range of consumers to use for a wide range of uses and make it solve their challenge. Oftentimes it doesn't work and it's actually more expensive. So if you think about it, if a consumer device needs to have the latest 48 megapixel camera, that's going to increase the cost compared to an enterprise who's not really using the camera for anything other than to scan a QR code and maybe enroll a device into a management policy. So if we don't need to have the 48 megapixel camera, your cost comes down. If we don't need to have, the highest, screen resolution, because again, that's not what's important for you as you're filtering your pictures, as you're just putting a tablet somewhere to, let's say receive an order, then your cost gets to stay down. You also get to build on a stable platform that is supported, secured, and you can buy more of the same devices for at least 3 to 5 years. So when you buy a device for your organization, and let's just say you're going to deploy 10,000 devices, and then next year you guys grow and you need to put out another 5, 10, 20,000 devices, you don't want to have to go find the next new version of that device and then have your IT team have to validate and support multiple different versions. You want to be able to deploy the same exact SKU for many years to come and know that it's going to get the security updates and be able to be supported by your IT team in an efficient and scalable way. So that's why we push for bespoke instead of off the shelf. We get to build you exactly what you want to solve your exact challenges at your exact price point with your exact use case in mind. And then we get to put that same device out for you for 3 years and guarantee the availability so that you're never stuck trying to find pre-owned devices or certified pre-owned devices to fulfill a client's requirements. You can always call us for the next 3 years and buy more of that exact same device in whatever quantity you need.
Very good. Well, I've got more questions, and I know that my co-host Brian has a number of questions he wants to ask. Before we do, though, we're going to go back and let Leo tell us about, believe it or not, yet another great sponsor of This Week in Enterprise Tech. Leo, over to you.
One more time. I'd like to interrupt one more time, but this is such an important topic. I really want to talk about it. I know your listeners want to hear about data quality. This episode of This Week in Enterprise Tech is brought to you by Melissa. If you have a business, specifically, let's think about your address list, your customer contact information. That's gold, isn't it? That list of people who've done business with you, people who've reached out to you. Those are the good leads, aren't they? That's gold. But the thing is, there's a problem with it. It's rotting away. It's rusting out as we're speaking because this custom information, this data gets worse all the time. Names change, addresses change, emails change, phone numbers change. And so if you're not actively keeping it up to date, that beautiful little gem that you have is getting tarnished over time. And that's where Melissa comes in. They are a leading, I'd say the leading provider of global data quality. They have many services now. Actually, they've really expanded. They also do identity verification. That might be very important to your business. Address management. They've announced something that is going to be helpful to you. Their 2023 Melissa Solutions Catalog. I want you to go to their website and get a copy of this, melissa.com/twit. Their Melissa Solutions Catalog highlights Melissa's kind of amazingly comprehensive suite of solutions and services, all designed around the idea of keeping customer data clean, current, and even enriching it with additional information so that it is most useful to you. These are the magic leads. These are the names and addresses you really want to keep in touch with. Melissa has developed this solutions catalog as a tool, a resource for anybody who's in database administration or a developer. The catalog highlights tools that clean, verify, update, dedupe, yeah, they do that too, and enrich customer data. And I love Melissa because you can implement it at any point in the data chain. There's an API, so you could actually incorporate it into your customer service software or your point of sale software, your consumer, your shopping basket, that kind of thing. And it is all designed to ensure your global people data, addresses, names, phones, emails are validated, updated, and standardized, even at the point of entry. Even when your sales rep is typing this in, Melissa can be there to fix it. You can do it on-prem. You can do it as a SaaS solution. They even have, I love this, a secure FTP site. We do this every year with our Christmas cards. You upload them, and then they do their thing. They process it, and that doesn't sound like that. And then you download it, and it's all clean and good, and everybody's name and address is updated and up to date and accurate. They even validate email addresses, so you don't have any phonies in there. Bud Walker, who's the VP of Enterprise Sales and Strategy at Melissa, said, and this is a great quote, over our 37-year history, Melissa has helped more than 14,000 organizations around the world across multiple industries proactively manage the quality of the data. Our annual solutions catalog illustrates why we are the address experts and offers the full scope of smart, sharp tools to help organizations proactively maximize the inherent business value of customer contact data. Just for the ID verification stuff alone is worth its weight in gold, especially if you have compliance requirements around that, right? Make sure you're not getting defrauded. Since 1985, Melissa specialized in global intelligence solutions to help organizations unlock accurate data for a more compelling customer view. Melissa has ranked #1 across overall, enterprise, mid-market, and small business segments in various categories such as price reporting, ease of use, Gartner Magic Quadrant this year again. I think that's the 3rd year running. And I do want to reassure you, because I know people are concerned about this data, these precious lists are absolutely safe with Melissa. They undergo continuous independent security audits to make sure that reinforce their commitment to data security, to privacy, and to compliance. They're SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA compliant, and GDPR compliant. So you can use this with absolute confidence that the data is totally protected. It's in the very best hands. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free. Melissa.com/twit. Melissa.com/twit. Get that solutions catalog. Get started with Melissa. You will be very glad you did. Now, back to TWiT.
Okay, my turn. So, back at the University of Hawaii, a bunch of my students were really excited about doing custom Android ROMs because they could. But I started asking some questions. It's like, okay, when we did an article on Microsoft Intune, which is a device management system, I kind of said, can I go and still push stuff to these custom ROMs? And the answers were, I have no idea. But you guys seem to have an idea on how this works. And it really and truly sounds like a lot of it revolves around Google mobile services and staying with standard Android enterprise. So let's talk about that. First off, what is GMS and why is custom ROMs such a bad idea for the enterprise?
Great question. So Google Mobile Services is basically it gives you access to a whole bunch of Android Enterprise APIs and ensures the security and integrity of your hardware and software. So when you have GMS certification, which, as most people, stands for Google Mobile Services, and is that certification, it's basically a stamp of approval from Google that your software and your hardware has gone through a stringent battery of tests, and that they conform to Google's requirements, minimum requirements for security, and that you will continue to maintain the security and push security updates for the full life cycle of that product. So when you use a mobile device management platform, you are able to basically control many of the different functions and functionalities of these Android devices without doing anything to customize the ROM and therefore interfering with GMS certification. So using a GMS certified device, you can use a GMS certified or an Android Enterprise approved mobile device management platform, and you can control all of the settings remotely. You can push out certain applications, remove applications, remote wipe device, put specific functionality on the device. So if it leaves a specific geolocation, the device gets wiped. Think about like a healthcare environment where if it's a device that's intended to be used for a healthcare practice and only within a set, let's just say hospital, and all of a sudden that device winds up outside the hospital, your organization would want to know that and be able to control what anyone who has that device in their hand is able to access. So through a Android Enterprise approved management platform, such as ours, which we have one called Mambo, you're able to basically set parameters that if that device leaves a certain location, it can be remotely wiped and it can be locked down so that nobody can access any of the data on it. And it basically provides all of the additional security that you need to make sure that the devices can only be used for the intention that you originally had when you developed this custom device. So, as I mentioned before, Social Mobile, we have our own proprietary MDM platform. It's an Android Enterprise approved platform called Mambo. We built it, based on the feedback of a lot of our hardware and enterprise clients. We built that platform out and decided to focus on the most important features that our enterprise clients rely on. So it was designed specifically with enterprise in mind and with an uncluttered and clean UI. And one of the things we're most proud about that platform is actually our chief product officer oversees that. His name is Jason Bate, and he happens to be the only platinum Android enterprise product expert in the world right now. So we're very proud of that platform and the capabilities of it and the team we have overseeing it, and the functionality of it and what you're able to do by utilizing that and the Android APIs basically removes the need for any custom ROM, which, makes your device less secure and removes the certifications basically the stamps of approval that Google put on it to confirm its security. So using a mobile device management platform basically allows you to maintain that security and all the certifications, but still achieve the end result that you want to serve the business purpose you need.
Well, that sounds actually like it's going to fit the bill for an awful lot of medium to large corporations. But what happens if I'm a little on the smaller side and I still want these capabilities? Your PR people sent me a press release on something you're calling Social Mobile One. Are we early? Can we start talking about that just a little bit? Give us a hint.
You broke up for one moment there. Did you mention Social Mobile One?
Yes, I did. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
I got a press release, and that sounds interesting, especially for people on the smaller side of medium.
So Social Mobile One is a new program we're going to launch in early 2023, and it would actually be perfect for the smaller to medium-sized enterprise. And what that is we're basically going to roll our hardware, whether that's a custom solution or an off-the-shelf enterprise device that we have in our own in-house portfolio. We're going to allow our clients to roll those hardware costs in addition to software, connectivity, and managed service costs all into one low monthly cost. So instead of buying a device outright for, a couple $100 and then paying your connectivity provider for your data plan and your deployment partner for the fulfillment and the returns, what we're going to do is we're going to basically roll that all into one low monthly cost. So you can get your hardware, a complete repair plan, the LTE connectivity, help desk service, and everything all rolled into one low monthly cost. And the reason enterprises really have really started to hint that they want this offering is because it allows them to shift the spend from a CapEx model to an OpEx model. They're no longer having to outlay a big chunk of cash up front. They can now just pay a monthly fee for every device that they roll out as they roll them out, and just know that they're paying, basically they have one vendor to manage, and they can roll all of that into one cost. And, they basically have one hand to shake, and that's us. So we roll everything into one low monthly cost, move it to your CapEx budget, to your OpEx budget, and provide you with one vendor that you know where to go if anything mobile related is not working 100% properly. You know that you call us, and we are the party responsible for everything. Everything mobile related is us, and you get to get to take advantage of that all without the big upfront capital outlay.
Cool. So that means it sounds like even the SIMs come from you folks, or do I still have to have that Verizon or AT&T or T-Mobile contract?
So no, we are actually partners with all of the major carriers, so we can provide you with that connectivity. So whether you have your own relationship and want to basically get us the SIM cards and we can put them into the devices for you and get them activated and then deploy them to your end users, or you want to just come to us for the actual connectivity and roll that into this one low monthly cost, we can support you either way. So we do have direct relationships with these, the major carriers here in the country, and we work with our clients in both types of engagements.
Okay, cool. And what about the private 5G solutions that are starting to hit the enterprise now? Can we still play with that?
So absolutely. So, as our clients have, as 5G has become more prevalent and, everyone's starting to learn about it, a lot of our custom solutions and our clients are now coming to us and requesting that we're building them 5G devices. So, we're working with the semiconductor companies, Qualcomm, MediaTek, to put in the new 5G chipsets that can support all the 5G frequencies. And that's going to be the new focus of a lot of our custom built solutions. We're seeing that that's the trend of most of our clients' requests these days.
This sounds like an amazing solution. Back when I was still working for the federal government and I was working on some initial designs for literally gate guards, how we were using, for God's sakes, compact iPACs for a prototype, and we ran into all those issues. And it was just so that we can go and make sure you really were you when you drove up to the gate of a military base. A great solution. This is interesting. And I think what we need to do is, I think our viewers want to know, where can they go for more information? What kinds of homework should they be doing before they give you guys a call?
So for more information, you can visit our website, socialmobile.com. You can see everything that we do, all of the services we offer, and some of our custom offerings. Keep in mind that you won't see a lot of the actual devices or our clients listed on there because everything we do is under their brand name. So it's all confidential. We stay in the background. When we release a device under our client's brand name, we don't promote that we made that. So you're not going to see many of the actual custom solutions on there, or at least you won't see names of the clients. You might just see renderings of the devices themselves. What should you know before you contact us? That's actually a great question. So developing a custom solution, it's an iterative process, and it requires collaboration across both organizations. Oftentimes, there's going to be a minimum quantity requirement, and that might be a barrier to entry for a smaller company. But when you need to deploy tens of thousands of devices across multiple geographies, it becomes a no-brainer from a cost, scalability, and management perspective to develop something custom. The most important question you should have answered before you engage with us is, what challenge does your business need to solve that will improve efficiencies? If there's a technology solution that can improve efficiencies within your organization, we are the right company to engage. So some other things you should think about before contacting us or as you're speaking to us is, what's the timeline you need to roll this device out? What are the target markets you plan on deploying them in? What are the operating systems that your applications are developed to work with? And who is basically the end user? Those are some of the most important questions that you'll want to know as you head into an engagement with us. And then we'll kind of guide you along the rest of the way and help with any other questions that you might not have the answers to prior to starting an engagement with us.
That sounds awesome. I wish I had you guys 15 years ago. Oh, well.
We hear that a lot.
Tyler, thank you so much for being on the show and helping to educate us. The bespoke mobility sounds like a very, very cool and very timely topic.
Yeah, again, thank you guys for having us. This was great. Happy to answer any questions or join any other time you guys want to have us.
Outstanding. Tyler, thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'd love to continue talking, but unfortunately, we've run out of time. It's funny how that happens when we're having a good time here on This Week in Enterprise Tech. Before we go, though, Brian, where can people find you? What you going to be doing this coming week?
I'm going to be tinkering. We have to play. So I'm going to be bragging about some of the cool blinky lights I'm working on Twitter. I'm still on Twitter. The Mastodon hasn't quite grabbed my attention as much as Twitter, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm ADVNETLAB, Advanced Net Lab on Twitter. Love to hear from you, and we're going to see if we can go and share some neat stuff. You're also more than welcome to make suggestions. We'd love to hear your ideas for shows. I try to organize shows by threads. People ask for various, topics, and I try to go and weave those threads to go and help you go in at the very beginning, the middle, and hopefully find someone that can go into some more detail so that we can educate everybody. So I'm also Cheebert, CheeBert at twit.tv. You're also welcome to throw email at TWiT@twit.tv. That'll hit all the hosts. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear your ideas. We'd love to hear your comments. And hopefully we'll find something that appeals to you.
Thanks so much, Brian. We appreciate that. If you want to follow me, you can do so on LinkedIn. I'm Kurt Franklin. You can do it on Twitter. I am KG4GWA. There are all kinds of places to follow me, and I try to make it worthwhile to do just that. As with Brian, if you've got questions, if you've got comments, if you've got suggestions for things you'd like us to talk about, please don't hesitate to send them our way. Well, that's it for this week. Next week, with any luck at all, Lou will be back in the chief host's chair. Looking forward to that. Until then, thanks for being with us. We wouldn't do this without you. And if you're looking for the best in enterprise technology news, remember, just keep quiet.
Hey folks, I'm Ant Pruitt and I have a question for you. How do you think your hardworking team with a Club TWiT corporate subscription plan, of course. Show your appreciation and reward your tech team with a subscription to Club TWiT. Keep everyone informed and entertained with podcasts covering the latest in tech. With the Club TWiT subscription, they get access to all of our podcasts ad-free. And they also get access to our members-only Discord, access to exclusive outtakes and behind-the-scenes footage and special content like the fireside chats that I enjoy hosting. Plus, they also get shows like Hands on Mac, Hands on Windows, and the Untitled Linux Show. So go to twit.tv/clubtwit and look for corporate plans for complete details.